10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Good morning, friends and colleagues. It's my absolute pleasure to welcome you all today to the Qatar National Library. This is a place where wisdom lives, they say. And I think that when you are looking outside of this room, you are seeing so many little pieces and hints of that wisdom in those bookshelves that we can only dream of that we could accumulate at all. But I also believe that today in this room, we have a lot of wisdom, a lot of insights that can be shared to build a better education for all. This is the second education house that we are producing. My name is Lasse Leponiemi, I'm the chair of the 100 Foundation. And it has been a fantastic journey together with Teach for All, Salzburg Global, and the WISE Summit to build this experience for you. We are looking to continue the discussions that were started at the WISE Summit during the last couple of days. And what could be more important topic than education for human flourishing in the era of AI? We are seeing that how that is shaping our world in different ways, how it's shaping the education, how it's shaping the way how our youth is seeing the opportunities of the world. For me, the key has been also always to focus on the future orientation of the young people. Why some people see more opportunities than others, and as educators, it's our task to make those opportunities to be available for them. So therefore, I'm looking very much towards the discussions that we are able to hold today with this group. And I have a fantastic group of people to share the stage. And in the end of the education house, we are also having some workshops. And at the same time, when you are here, there is people online who are watching the live stream and also tuning in. So I also want to welcome you all to this event today. And now when we are starting, first we have a welcome address from the WISE Summit. So Stavros, this might be one of the last speeches that you are giving as a CEO. So use the time well. Please, welcome.
Thank you, Lasse. I don't know that I'm going to be as lucky as you think I am in having this be the last speech that I give. I seem to be giving a lot of them these days, but I appreciate the sentiment. Excellency, ladies and gentlemen, dear friends, it's my pleasure really to be, I guess, kicking off this education house. A collaboration with 100. Those of you, I think many of you were at the WISE Summit, and you know that for the past, well, actually for us it's been 7 days, but for the past 2 days we've had a pretty intensive conference and set of discussions, and you know, within the WISE team, those of us who have done this a few times now, there's always this moment after the summit when the post-WISE blues, we call it, kick in. Now this year it's different, and thanks to you, Lasse, we have something exciting to look forward to, and so it's really a great pleasure to be here. So what I thought I would do, and I don't want to to sort of delay the substantive conversations that are about to begin, is just to share. And again, forgive me for those of you who were there yesterday afternoon. I'm going to repeat a little bit of what I said at the closing in terms of the kind of high-level themes that came out of that 2-day discussion. And So the first thing that I think was very clear to me, following these discussions, was that the consensus, from policymakers, from entrepreneurs, and most certainly from educators, is that we want, whatever is coming down the pipeline in terms of technology, solutions, we really want education to remain a deeply human endeavor. And I was just chatting with Francois earlier this morning, and he said something that I think is quite profound. He has a habit of doing that, and he said, "Listen, you can learn a lot of things from machines, but you can only learn how to be a human from other human beings." And I think we should really keep that in mind as perhaps the raison d'être that of why we want this enterprise to remain deeply human. The second theme that emerged, and we had paleoanthropologists in the room, we had historians, we had artists, we had you guys were there, scientists of course, and technologists and all. Tools and technology have always been part of the human story. They're arguably the reason we're here. Let's not kid ourselves that we are increasingly reliant on those tools and technologies, and arguably we've always been, maybe since the discovery of fire, since those flint hand axes came into being, we've always depended on those technologies to flourish, not just to survive, but in fact to flourish. However, those tools and those technologies have always been in our service, not the other way around. Which brings me to my third point, which is that we're on the cusp potentially of something unprecedented in our story, in our human story. And that is, we're introducing not just a tool, not just a technology, but potentially an alien intelligence. Alien in the sense not that it's coming from outer space, but it's non-human. It's alien to us. Now, again, I don't know where you sit on the AGI, artificial general intelligence debate, but there's a lot of very, very smart people who think we are on the brink. Some say it's 2 years away. Others say, well, it's 10 years or 25. Well, whatever the number, right? Even if it's 50 years away, which sounds like a long time, in the history of our species, it's nothing. 50 years might as well be tomorrow. And so we're going to introduce this intelligence into our homes. We're going to introduce it into our workplaces. We're going to introduce it into our classrooms. It behooves us to really make sure that it's going to be serving our interests, it's going to reflect our values, and it's going to help us on the road to human flourishing, not detract. Unfortunately, our history with digital technologies is not good. Let's be honest. We haven't done a very good job of making sure that they are additive to human flourishing, whatever the stated intention of the founders and whatnot. So I guess I'm looking to sort of people in this room to say, many of you are in EdTech, many of you are in the broader education space. You have a very important role to play. You are custodians, you are gatekeepers. So you have a voice, you have a contribution that you can make. I'm not a determinist. I don't believe that we are helpless in the face of technology. We have choices. We can make choices. Let's make better choices for education. Thank you. Thank you, Lasse. Let's have a great conference.
Thank you, Stavros. And in the name of equality, it's also a great pleasure to have Dr. Kasmi to share a few words with us today.
Thank you very much. Normally when I'm behind a podium, people can barely see me, so this is a good size one. You are in one of my most favorite places in Qatar, if perhaps not the world. I saw a picture of the Qatar National Library in the airport, and I thought, somebody's got a really cool vision. I thought it was an artistic idea. And when I came here and I saw it in reality, it really makes us think about how do you take a vision and an idea and execute it through human vision, human execution combined with technology. And I think this resonates with what Stavros is saying about how do we have human vision informing what we're doing. So I wanted to talk to you about three things. One is the importance of cataloging. The second one is the importance of collaborating. And the third one is the importance of quality. And the cataloging, what 100 Ed does, and I was asked once, quite often, what is the thing that we should do? Which is the technology that we should invest in? And there isn't a way to answer that because we in the education sector have not been very good at saying, amongst the thousands of things that are there, this is the three things that are most suited to you. So 100 Ed, sort of bringing that catalog together, thinking about some sort of vetting is a really important sign. Then the second point in collaboration. Quite a lot of the times when we're in a position of funding or recommending, we see small organizations as opposed to organizations that have connected together, have expertise that is doubling up and making holistic sense for teachers and for schools. But what you're also doing is, like, this is an example of how WISE and 100 Ed are collaborating with more wider partners to come together and be bigger than our own individual organizations. And the third thing is quality. We have to improve the quality of teaching and learning. And whether that part of the teaching is coming from technology, we cannot assume just because it's coming from technology it's going to be high quality. So rooting our interactions in what the evidence tells us about effective teaching and learning, effective instruction, how humans learn, how adults learn, is really important. And when you are a tech company, the thing that you have more than anything else is data. How often you share that data is far, far too rare, which always makes me think you might not have good things to share, and that's why you're not sharing it. So my challenge to you is make sure that you are using your data to improve and using your data to show the impact that you are having. Thank you very much for being here, and I look forward to engaging with you as we continue over the years.
Thank you, Asia. Next, we are starting to focus on the theme of the day. What does education for human flourishing actually mean? How can we perceive it? And what kind of different aspects we have for that important topic? In the next section, we will hear two perspectives, one from Qatar and the another one from Finland, our home country. We started to collaborate with Qatar Foundation back in 2019 to feature Qataris education innovations. And I had a great pleasure last year to be here and to learn more about Torpa Junior program that has been taking place at the Education City. And therefore, it's great to have Fatma Al-Khater today with us to share about the Qataris perspective for education for human flourishing and a little bit about Torpa. Please.
Good morning, everyone. I'd like to first thank the ambassador of Finland and 100 for hosting me today. And it's a true pleasure to be here. I think most of you heard about Turba Market. I would love to just maybe tell you a little bit about myself. I started Turba 8 years ago. I felt that the community we live in here in Qatar is disenfranchised from itself and the land. And I also work as a board and partner in a fund as part of the QIA Fund of Funds, where we do invest in startups. And lastly, I'm also a big sort of champion of South-to-South investment, which brings me to my last sort of job as the head of the Qatar and Africa Business Forum. Why I probably just said that is I wanted to sort of give you the complex version of simplifying something that matters to me, and that's children. Children are the future, and as you know, Stavros and Dr. Asia said about legacy, and I think WISE is one of the best sort of platforms to continue this conversation. And I always say that, you know, with 100 or WISE, you know, you look at these projects or these novelties or solutions, and you really feel humbled that something so simple and impactful made such a sort of impact in society. And this is where I wanted to talk about Turba Junior. It's a market for kids, and I had the sort of humble honor and pleasure of supporting kids. And this year we were lucky enough to sort of win the prize, the Innovation Spotlight for Qatar. So if you see, there's a small poster there, and that's me in my own voice screaming to visitors of Turba to go and support kids. And it's basically saying, hey, I'm a kid, I've worked so hard, can you please come either talk to me so you boost my confidence about what I'm doing, or buy from me anything that's like a 10 riyal bracelet to a macaroon to like a cup of karak. And we got so popular that I had ministers, people in the community that I usually freak out if I see their numbers, call me and they're like, please, we need our kid. And actually one of them was the former Minister Buthaina Al-Naimi. She was sitting there for hours and hours with kids. And I was like, oh, is this really, like, is this special? Or is it just like, you know, something that added value both for community and children? So it started off as something that I wanted to build the confidence of kids, and it sort of really shot up that way. So with the vision of Qatar and centering human capital around it, I think we sort of try to align it as much as we can. So my sort of always vision is show and don't tell. So by having those kids and those queues of parents and families asking about, you know, from, I would say, June, July, I get calls about, when is Turba Junior starting? Because I want the first lot. And sometimes, you know, those kids that don't have phones get phones, and they start messaging me too. And they're like, oh, by the way, I want a stall. And I go, okay, but if you sell above 200 riyals, I'm gonna give you the stall for free. And they don't get it. I'm just trying to motivate them. And it sometimes really works. So with that, they focus on, I really wanna connect adults to kids in a very safe environment. And I think the Turba market community really does that, where kids feel safe to interact with adults in such a sort of mature way that allows the community to come together. And I think that's like one of the most understated, beautiful thing that we can do, and they learn skills with it. And these skills really help, I think, because it went from, oh, let me just sell cupcakes, to understand how to make menus and pricing. And I think one of the cutest things that I've seen is a child. She didn't make anything per se, but she got dinosaurs and animals in Ziploc bags and gave everyone fun facts. And she learned it by heart, and she was this big. So it keeps on definitely surprising me. You would think that, I can talk about jargon and grades of education and maturity and how it affects policy and outside of school education and informal education, but I really wanted to keep it as sort of simple as possible. Lastly, I think one of these kids, I think she's from, her name is Aisha. She went to her grandparents' farm and got farm eggs. And then she started selling the eggs and saying that, and she was talking to people. And it's sort of just the emphasis of how you can advocate for this sort of safe environment. And it really sort of, with Finland being sort of the champions of education, it feels like a very small component of what we can do to sort of follow best practice in terms of education and frameworks. And I think, with this, we're just starting, and it just really feels humbling. Lastly, I think, as we continue to develop our platform in Turba, we've announced last week that we have a toy donation drive. So the kids are coming with their toys, and we really try to keep children at the center of it. And yeah, this is the end of, thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Fatma, for sharing those experiences and perspectives working with the students and the youth at Torpa and wider in Qatari community. Next, let's go to Finland, our dear home country, where we had the first snow a couple of days ago. A little bit different kind of vibes than here. May I invite to His Excellency Ambassador Juha Mustonen to the stage to share how Finland is approaching education for human flourishing and how Finland built the education system we have today. Stage is yours.
Better placed. Now it's rightly placed, like all of you this morning. Your Excellencies, dear participants of the Education House event, and thank you for this opportunity to be here with you. Dear Lasse, dear Stavros, dear Aisha, dear Fatma, thank you very much for taking us all on board, looking at this topic of human flourishing, amidst the technological innovations which we talk not too much, but sometimes it feels like that. I feel very humbled to be in this building today, Qatar National Library, the key institution of access to knowledge and culture. This location reminds me of a very pleasant opportunity to meet the president of this library, Dr. Hamad bin Abdulaziz Al-Kawari, and to present him a book of 100 social innovations of Finland, in Arabic, of course. And one of the Finnish social innovations is the wide network of public libraries. Highlighting Finnish innovations has made our paths to cross also with 100. One of the co-conveners of this event, the one who invited me here today to share my views on education from governmental perspective. Our paths with 100 crossed 2017, that's correct, when Finland was celebrating its 100 years as an independent country, and when 100 took on the task of celebrating 100 impactful Finnish education innovations. Let me underline here that investing in education is something fundamental for Finnish society. Equal access to quality education has paved the way for Finland to become a knowledge economy known for Nokia networks, quantum computers, and AI development, but at the same time, to become a Nordic welfare society ranked as the happiest nation in the world. Be it true or not, be it true or not. But ranked still. A few years ago, the World Economic Forum provided us 10 reasons why Finland's education system is the best in the world, be it or not, Mervi knows. I'm not going to introduce their list, but instead I will raise 3 main takeaways from that reflection. Firstly, Finnish teachers are highly trained and respected professionals, with most holding a master's degree in education with a broad professional autonomy. Respected indeed, my wife being among one of them. Secondly, Finland's education system emphasizes equity over excellence, providing equal opportunities to all students regardless of their background or abilities. To us, equality is both an important value, but also a tool for ensuring that we make use of the entire potential of the society. Very important for us, small country, small population. We need everybody. Thirdly, there is no standardized testing in Finland. Students are graded individually by their teachers. Overall progress is mapped by sampling groups of schools. Pedagogy is cleverly designed for different age groups and also individually. This student-centered approach is widely appreciated also here in Qatar. Established in 2014, Qatar-Finland International School represents a long-standing partnership between Finland and Qatar, founded on the same belief that every child deserves a joyful and meaningful learning experience that we just learned also from the Fatima's examples. Joyful and meaningful learning experience. I would like to praise this year's WISE Summit for its focus on important values of humanity. Her Highness Sheikh Moza bint Nasser wisely stated that human values are at the heart of education. The work of Qatar Foundation is about making this belief into reality. Ladies and gentlemen, also Finland's answer is to invest in human capacities that cannot and should not be automated. Things like empathy, creativity, ethical reasoning, and democratic agency. We have produced a new national vision. According to that, Finland remains committed to the model of a common comprehensive school that serves all learners, regardless of their background. This model is quite rare in a global context, and it appears to be increasingly valued. It resists socioeconomic segregation. It fosters both social trust and shared civic identity, 2 things that are increasingly needed these days. We do not forget technology either. Finland's future vision sets to develop curricular goals around technological literature. Finnish children are already performing well, and this cross-curricular focus will continue to receive attention. All students need to understand how algorithms work, their limitations and biases, and learn to use them responsibly. Technology can be seen also as a potential equalizer. Strategic use of AI could be used to reduce administrative burden on teachers and free more time for human interaction, as well as to support multilingualism and inclusive pedagogy in increasingly diverse classrooms. Ladies and gentlemen, as we see that the whole education sector is being shaped by fast developing technologies, Finland stands ready to cooperate with Qatar, with UNESCO Regional Office for Gulf States and other partners in facing these challenges when it comes to issues such as teacher education, leadership in education, and developing human capital for future economies. Finally, I would like to thank Doha and 100 and Education House as organizers of this event for bringing innovators and decision makers from all around the world to think together how we can ensure indeed human flourishing and equal access to education for many. Wishing you all insightful discussions. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ambassador Mustonen. I think at 100 we did not quite understand the task given to us, because the task was very clearly said to be now fast forward almost 10 years, and we are still doing it, but now with the global education innovations. And we will keep doing this. On November 11th, we were announcing the 100 Global Collection for 2026. And guess not, it's 100 education innovations once again. Next, I want to introduce you Mr. Shaps, also known as Alex Shapiro, and then our dear community lead, Ale, from Latin America, to share you some insights about the Global Collection 26, and also to hear from a handful of 100 education innovators that have been selected for 2026 collection. So now we are moving the discussion to those practical examples from around the world, how education can help us with the human flourishing. Alex, Ale, stage is yours.
All right, now we need to try and make the mic work for both of us. So
We can share.
Yeah, absolutely. Hello, everybody, and welcome. We are absolutely thrilled to celebrate the 100 Global Collection 2026, our annual portfolio. Oh, yeah. Look out there. Our annual portfolio of the 100 most impactful and scalable education solutions from around the world. Just released 2 weeks ago, as Lasse said. Several of the minds working on these solutions are present here today. If you are one of our innovators, please stand up right now so we can take a look. They're all wearing these beautiful purple stickers. Let's give them a big round of applause. Find them later. They've got lots to talk about. This year's collection was launched in a moment when education is being reshaped by AI, climate disruptions, shifting funding, and the persistent global learning crisis. And yet what we see in this year's collection is a story of resilience. Not resilience as an abstract trait, but as real people in real communities actively adapting, creating, and sustaining learning against all odds.
Okay, we're gonna make it work. This past year, 100 received 789 applications from 52 countries. From those, 149 made it to the shortlist, where 253 Academy members, including 11 junior Academy members, completed over 3,360 reviews.
From that process, 100 innovations were selected, spanning continents, context, and pedagogies, yet united by a commitment to improving education with creativity, integrity, and above all, deep local insights. And to each and every one of these, once again, congratulations, truly. Your work shows the world what meaningful, context-rooted education change looks like.
This year, Global's collection exists in a global education landscape which is marked by shrinking international funding, increasing climate disruptions, conflicts affecting millions of learners, and the unrelenting pace of AI development. And yet, innovators are not stepping back. They are stepping forward.
Some examples. Oops. Oh, congratulations also. Some examples. All right. So in Sudan, Jordan, and Ukraine, Can't Wait to Learn continues to provide playful, tablet-based learning in conflict settings to make sure that students have access to the foundational knowledge they need for success in the rest of their lives.
Chetsta Solar Backpack brings renewable, portable energy to rural learners in Botswana and beyond, helping to bridge the electrification divide that keeps impactful learning out of the hands of so many.
And far above the Arctic Circle, Connected North ensures that remote Indigenous communities in Canada can leverage high-quality digital tools to expand networks of expertise, both locally and from around the world. These innovations remind us that resilience is not merely about surviving the changes that confront us. It's about designing through them.
Every year, we ask the youngest members of our community what education looks like for them and what changes do they wish to see. The responses were striking. Junior Academy members repeatedly highlighted the tension between innovative tools and outdated teaching practices. As one youth reviewer in Bhutan shared, students often don't feel comfortable or confident while learning. Innovation is powerful only when teachers help us feel seen and involved.
And as most teachers know, youth aren't asking for more tools. They're asking for relevance, they're asking for dialogue, and they're asking for real-world meaning. And that's exactly what so many of the innovations in this collection are delivering. Take, for example, EDI, which offers precision diagnostics to help teachers target the misconceptions in math so students can gain intuitive understandings of the processes.
C-Learning infuses ethics, contemplative practice, and systems thinking into SEL so learners grow into adults that understand not just how to regulate their emotions, but also the wisdom behind it.
And Enabling Leadership's Play program uses teamwork, sports, and agency to build communities, modeling for young people how confidence, gender equality, and courage can achieve something truly special. This is what human flourishing looks like on the ground. This is human flourishing in practice, using technology, research, and local knowledge to free teachers, not to replace them, to make space for what only humans can do.
A core principle at 100, and one that we really want to emphasize today, is that the solutions to education's most complex and wicked problems will not come from one single country, institution, or organization. They will come from everywhere. The 100 community believes deeply that innovation is globally distributed. Creativity is locally grounded. Excellence is already happening in the classrooms, communities, and organizations across the world. Our role is not to dictate solutions. Our role is to shine a light on them, to celebrate them, to connect them, and to help them grow in ways that remain rooted to the context that created them.
This year's Global Collection embodies that ethos. It is a platform, not for best practices, but for sharing practices, diverse by design, and strengthened through collaboration across borders.
Across the 100 selected innovations, 5 major themes stand out. First, equity and access to education, affirming the right to quality learning for all. From ASIMA, supporting Arabic learning refugees, to AfriKids powerhouse communities, welcoming parents into the learning space, equity remains the most cited priority.
Foundational and future-ready skills, which cultivate everything from literacy to social-emotional learning. Innovations like Alpha Tiles and FlowStart strengthen language basics and children's ability to sit and focus and move throughout the day.
Next, project-based collaborative learning, developing partnerships to solve the future's biggest challenges. Cool Thing at JC and the Rubbish Film Festival demonstrate the real-world problem-solving and creativity are not longer optional.
And thoughtful, purposeful technology, which multiplies the impact of professional educators while keeping humans at the heart of schools. Solutions like Coach by Career Village or Class Sati show how small interventions help every child get more personalized and human contact.
And teacher support, an essential but underserved aspect of healthy educational systems. Solutions like Circle of Teachers Learning and Educating for Well-Being show how professional development that transforms educator practices has ripple effects throughout their entire communities.
Oh, not quite yet. To the innovators in this room and those joining online, once again, thank you so much. Your courage, your creativity, and above all, your persistence are changing education every single day.
Whether you work in a refugee camp, in a rural community, a bustling megacity, or a classroom thousands of kilometers away, your work forms the backbone of this global movement.
So, go ahead.
Before we hand over to our featured speakers, let's briefly highlight each one of their solutions.
The BLP scale-up via the white label approach reimagines how evidence-based pedagogy programs can scale, not by pushing a branded product, but by offering a flexible model that lets governments and NGOs adapt it as their own. It's a powerful example of scaling through humility and shared ownership.
MOSA Ambassadors empowers learners to become agents, not recipients, elevating youth voice, peer leadership, and community engagement. It embodies exactly what young people told us in the Youth Voices section. We want to feel our ideas matter.
And the guidance program supports refugee youth in the MENA region in East Africa to pursue higher education by building their confidence and readiness to apply. Through flexible digital resources, workshops, and mentorship, it helps learners identify opportunities and take concrete next steps towards their goals. 100 is not just a collection, though. It is a community, a global network of people who believe that every chance for every child deserves a chance to flourish. If you're new to this network, we welcome you, and we invite you to explore the innovations in the collection, connect with their founders, use, adapt, and share these solutions, and if you have your own idea you want to share, bring it to our world. And now, it is our great pleasure to introduce 3 remarkable innovators from this year's Global Collection. Please welcome
Camila Lodi, the driving force behind the Better Learning Program's Scale Up via the white label approach. Please come up to the stage. Yum Sophie of MOSA Ambassadors. And the guidance programs, May Nasrallah.
We have asked each of them to share briefly, what does it mean for your organization to be selected to the 2026 Global Collection? And what does this recognition make possible for your work? So with that, over to you.
Thank you very much. And this sticker is not only next to my heart, but it is also on the back of my tablet. So that's how happy I am to be here today. So good morning to all. On behalf of the Norwegian Refugee Council, I'm honored to share a few reflections on what it means for us to be recognized in the 100 Global Collection for 2026 with our Better Learning Program Scale Up via the white label approach. So for NRC, being included is not only a validation of the evidence, but it is also an acknowledgement of the potential of the hundreds and thousands of learners, teachers, parents, communities whom we work with every day in crisis-affected settings. The Better Learning Program, or BLP, was developed together with the Arctic University of Norway, and it began 13 years ago in a few number of classrooms in Gaza, where children were trying to learn, but were also affected by high levels of stress and trauma. So over time, because of its impact and its evidence base, BOP has expanded in 34 countries, helping children and youth not only return back to learning, but also to improve learning outcomes. So in some places, it is used in a condensed manner in acute emergency phases. In some other countries, it is used in collaboration with Ministry of Education to be integrated, embedded, institutionalized inside formal curricula. For us, this recognition not only affirms that human flourishing is possible, even in the most difficult context, when children feel safe and protected, but it also reminds us that education in emergency cannot be implemented without psychosocial support being a precondition to learning. So being included in the 100 collection also validates a white label approach, which allows governments, local partners, international partners to adapt the program in ways that it fits their context. This approach is how we're able to meet the increasing demand we're having by governments and local partners around the world. We hope this recognition will also inspire more of us, more of you, to join us, join the journey in expanding the reach and supporting the next phase of our work. NRC's Together for Wellbeing 2030 initiative aims to reach 2 million children and youth across the globe and support teacher self-care. So finally, if this recognition does one thing, I hope it reminds us that big change can start in small classrooms, and that together we can ensure that it does not stop there. Thank you.
Thank you, Camila. And next, we welcome Yun of Mosa Ambassadors.
Good day, everyone. My name is Iman Soufi. Today, I'm honored to be with you among people who believe in the future of our learners and the role education must play in shaping the world around us. Well, today I'm absolutely honored to share with you what the global recognition means for our students, our community, and for us as educators. Well, let me start by introducing you to our vision. Basically, our vision is simple, but yet powerful. We want our students to feel capable of shaping the world around them. And we also use design thinking, where learners has to identify real needs, create ideas, build prototypes, and test solutions. And this is, in fact, is connected to sustainability and inclusion. However, being selected for the 100 Global Collection 2026 and Qatar Spotlight 2025 gives us a very, very, very a push to continue doing this. And it also tells our learners that your ideas are heard, and it gives a powerful message that your ideas in Qatar will inspire learners worldwide. I will now leave you with a short video. Thank you so much. As part of the Moza Ambassador project, our innovation is about combining creativity, practical solutions, and a deep sense of responsibility to improve our community and the world. It's about applying what we learn in the curriculum in meaningful ways to address global or challenging problems. We take what we learn in the classroom and turn them into real solutions. And we're talking here about global issues related to sustainability, pollution, and safety. So in other words, we like to take our innovation a step further and inspire others and show how young people can make a difference in the society.
Thank you so much, Yum. And finally, May with the Mosaic Education's guidance program.
It's working, right? Okay, great. Hi, everyone. I'm passionate about lots of things that are education in emergencies and youth, and what Mosaic Education does is one of them, and I hope I can get you a little bit, at least, if not passionate, intrigued about what we do. For millions of young refugees around the world, their education journey ends, if they are lucky, at 18. For the vast majority, it ends well before that. We believe that the education journey should not end for refugees at 18, and that they have the right to aspire and access tertiary education opportunities. Globally, there are more than, now they say 43 million refugees around the world. Yet, only around 7 to 9% of those who are at the age of post-secondary schooling do access tertiary education. Now, if you compare that to the rest of their peers who have not experienced displacement, that's 42%. So when the guidance program is recognized as a 100 innovation, not as one of the 100 innovation, it's really not just an award that assets that the way we do it is innovative, but it's a statement that higher education and tertiary education more broadly really does matter, and that the right for refugees on their education journey does not end at 18, that refugees belong in our universities, in our academic institutions, in our scholarship schemes, and in our education system more broadly. The guidance program, as Alex spoke about it, is really very simple. It's simple at its core. We work with community organizations to do 3 things. Work with refugees so they explore what options post-secondary exist for them. Work with them so they have strong applications that can compete locally, regionally, and globally, and to develop the belief that there is opportunities for them, that they can access them for their education journey. Since 2019, when we started doing the guidance program, we've reached around 6,500 young people in Lebanon, Jordan, Uganda, Egypt, Turkey, and other countries. And we know that 1/3 of those graduates access tertiary education within 6 months of completing the program. 1/3 are actually in tertiary education institutes. We know that within 6 weeks, graduates report using these skills. And we've recently done a tracer study, and I personally find this fascinating, where we have also learned that 79% share this guidance and information they've gained with others, with their peers. So this is why the 100 recognition matters. I think, again, it validates that higher education matters, that refugees have the right to aspire, like their peers, for a continued education journey. 2, and I think this is very much for us, and it's perfect to be in this room, it really opened doors for partnerships so that we can reach more and more young refugees with guidance and information. Our model is designed to be adapted. The information and guidance gap is enormous, and we do not aspire to fill that gap alone. And then third, and I think most importantly, it values the young people who are running and delivering the guidance program, not only in their local communities, where they are already valued, but globally. So my invitation is very simple. If you see me for the rest of the day, and you work at a university, at an education initiative, you know a cousin who runs a community-based organization somewhere, grab me and let's talk about how we can work together. Thank you all.
Thank you so much for your insights and sharing the journey. And as you are returning back to your seats, we are moving forward in the program. Every year, as you heard, we reviewed education innovations. And we reviewed education innovations based on their impact and scalability factors. This year, there were more than 3,000 reviews. And one of the innovations was, innovation or innovative approach was getting extremely high scores. So we decided to give a special nomination. And it is the 100 Academy Choice Award. And this year, it is going to be the Teaching at the Right Level initiative. So I would like to introduce Bala, CEO and President of the Bradham International, to you to receive this sought after prize. Here you go. And then, as you take the stage, we all also know that this year has been full of surprises. Especially it has been full of surprises that if you are leading an organization which is doing multiple country programs across the world, some things might have changed. And the more adaptive and flexible you are as a nature, the more resilient you are as well. So Bala is going to share with us how you can lead through the uncertainty and how you can find opportunities where you might think they are not. Here's the clicker.
First up, thank you, Lasse and 100 for this honor. Frankly, this goes to all the teachers, the administrators, the parents, the communities. I'm just standing here on behalf of all those wonderful people who've actually done the hard work. But it's my honor today to represent all of them. Because as you see some of these faces, this is what sort of motivates us to keep going through all this uncertainty. But I wanted to say a big, big thank you to the 100 collection to be part of the Innovation of the Year. So I was given about 8 to 10 minutes to talk about leading through uncertainty. I'm not going to talk a whole lot about teaching at the right level method because there's a lot written about it. But I'm going to talk about the moment that we are in. Because I think it is, as many of you would have heard over the last couple of days, we are in sort of challenging times, right? And about 3 years back, the World Bank actually came up with this sort of term called learning poverty. I don't know if you've heard of this term, learning poverty, but basically what it means is that a child who's by the age of 10 is not able to do basic reading is considered to be in learning poverty. And that number was 7 out of 10 kids in learning poverty. Now, if you look at sub-Saharan Africa, that number is 9 out of 10. And in Latin America, which has historically not had these issues post-COVID, that number is now between 6 and 7. And in South Asia, again, the number is between 6 and 7. So we're looking at massive numbers of young people. We're talking about human flourishing, right, who are getting to age 10. We've got fantastic systems like Finland, but in many parts of the world, children aren't able to read a basic, simple sentence. That's travesty. I mean, we can't be doing this to our children. And it was in this context that a pedagogical innovation, teaching at the right level, came about. But, this is a sort of an moment of crisis, but we also think it's a moment of opportunity, right? So there's a crisis in terms of capital. With USAID, FCDO, all of that funding coming down, there's a crisis of capital. And if you look at regions like particularly Sub-Saharan Africa, there's issues around capacity and capability around teachers. And then one of the things that 100 highlighted, which is there's a climate crisis. 230 million children are facing this climate crisis. I think there's some reference about 85 million children are not able to attend school. So there's a climate crisis also beckoning. With all of this, how do you get children to actually learn? And teaching at the right level has sort of been in this journey for the last 30 years, is how do you get children, grades 3 and above, to actually do basic reading and math? And I'd say, in the midst of these 4 crises that I spoke about, I'm not going to talk about the pedagogical aspect of teaching at the right level. There's plenty of stuff written about it. I'd say there are 3 things that we have learned over the years in working with this. So just to set some context, teaching at the right level was actually first tried and tested in India in 2002. I was sitting next to the Teacher of the Year, Ranjit, so in a small district in Maharashtra called Mokhara. The idea was children were going to school, but were not learning. There was an invisible problem. And what we really did was, can we reconfigure children, not by their grade, by their level of learning, and can we do targeted set of activities to help them learn? And there's plenty of evidence in literature after maybe 6 or 7 RCTs. Abhijit Banerjee was there yesterday, and he's a long-term collaborator of ours. We can tell you that this works, and this works in India. Now, about 6 years back, along with Abhijit Banerjee, Pratham set up an organization in Africa called Teaching at the Right Level Africa, and I serve on the board of that organization, to see whether this can actually go into a different context outside of India. And that work's been fascinating because in 6 years, that work has now spread to 12 African countries. And in 3 countries, it's actually working at a national scale: Zambia, Cote d'Ivoire, and I'd say about a third of Nigeria. But I think in all of this, and we are also, I saw Javier from Suma somewhere here. So in all of this, I'd say the 3 things that I'd like to sort of talk about is curiosity, creativity, and collaboration, which has sort of helped us sort of get to this sort of next phase, particularly through this crisis. Curiosity, right? I mean, with all this that we have today, I mean, it's interesting, you see, this is a photo of a young man in Zambia playing with a bunch of sticks and trying to figure out what it means to be doing counting and do arithmetic, right? I mean, in every context that we've gone into, yes, it's a method that's worked in India, but we've fundamentally gone with the saying that on a beginner mindset, saying, what is the context here? What is working and what is sort of not working, rather than saying we've got a playbook that's worked in India and say, let's go and try and replicate this in another context. So that's one part of it. The other part of it is, in every context, there is actually scarcity, right? I didn't mean to sort of take this term from Ezra Klein and Derek Thompson's recent book, Abundance Mindset, but I actually think that, Pratham's, Madhav Chavan, our co-founder, says that, work with what you have, because you're not going to get lots of capital, all the teachers, all the resources. Work with what you have. And so that abundance mindset is going to be critical as we work in these sort of contexts and stuff. And more so with all the challenges that we have around climate, capital, capacity, and capability. So I do think that this curiosity, going into a new context, figuring out what we have and working with what we have has been an essential part of our learning over the years. The second piece that I'd say is really around creativity, right? I mean, this is a photo of a teacher, I believe in Cote d'Ivoire. You can see actually she's working with chalk on the ground. So, I mean, typically you'd say, okay, I need books. Of course, it's helpful to have books. Of course, it's helpful to have textbooks, workbooks, and stuff, but work with what you have. And let's try and reimagine and be creative with what we have. So here, she's actually doing an activity called mind mapping, where kids are actually learning how to construct sentences and draw meaning and inference, right? And this is the whole idea. Work with what you have, try and be creative, and reimagine solutions, particularly in low and middle income countries, where there is actually a resource constraint, right? And I mean, we are in a moment where technology is, everybody's talking about tech and AI. I do think it's a unique opportunity that we have with tech and AI. And the question is, how do you make this technology and AI work in those marginalized sort of communities and stuff? So we firmly believe that as long as technology is low cost, affordable, and accessible, I think it's going to work in these contexts, because all this fancy AI and all of that is great, but I think how are you going to get to the last mile in some of those young kids in sub-Saharan Africa or Latin America or in Asia? So yes, we believe in the power of technology, but it needs to work in the context. So I think creativity for some of that is going to be essential. The final piece, and I know many people have touched upon this, I think this is far too big a problem for any single organization to tackle. Collaboration is going to be essential. And part of collaboration is acknowledging that you don't know things, somebody out there knows the context better, and that's been our superpower. And you see, teaching at the right level today is actually being adapted, replicated in 25 different countries. We are now touching about 10 million kids between sub-Saharan Africa, South Asia, Middle East, and Latin America. I think it's heartening that, on Monday, my colleague Rukmini, who couldn't be here, we ran into the education minister of Morocco, Sarah, and she said that, teaching at the right level is actually working. And we had no idea about it, because we had trained the Ministry of Education 2.5 years back, and we actually stepped away after, training them and setting up the M&E process. And she was saying, I'd like to tell you that, teaching at the right level is still embedded in our classrooms, and it's working, and we'd like to actually take some of that approach into middle school as well. So, I mean, all this is to say that collaboration, nothing here that I'm saying is new or profound, but our experience tells us that, collaboration is key, particularly as you go into these new contexts and stuff. So, creativity, curiosity, collaboration in these sort of challenging times has been essential for us as we sort of look ahead. I did have a video here. Unfortunately, there's some technical glitch, but I couldn't play. But it was a message from Pratham's co-founder, Dr. Madhav Chavan. Since the topic is about human flourishing, Madhav had this to sort of say, said, at the end of the day, teaching at the right level is about giving children their dignity. It's about children living their youth. It's giving children the agency, and that's what teaching at the right level is. We believe that we have a proven solution. There are lots of challenges, but let's get to work and actually make this work. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Bala. Thank you so much for sharing your insights and how you have been dealing through these different situations. And now we are continuing in our program. The next we have a panel discussion led by Dominic Regester, which I would like to introduce you to the stage. He's the education director from Salzburg Global. He will introduce the other panelists to you, and we're going to have a discussion how education for human flourishing is shaping the education sector as we are moving forward. So Dominic, stage is yours.
Great, thank you, Lasse. Could I invite the other panelists to come and join me up here? Francois, that includes you as well, please. Marco, welcome. Salma, Malaz. Thank you all very much indeed. So we're going to have about 40 minutes for this panel discussion. It's a fantastic group of people to be discussing this topic with. And so, welcome, Malaz, thank you. So, by way of introductions, and as an opening question, we're going to go down the line. So, Salma, starting with you, if that's okay. And I would love you each to say a little bit about your work and why you're here, but also to answer the question, what needs to change in our education systems in order to realize education for the era of human flourishing and AI?
Good morning, everyone. I would like to preface before starting that we had just completed the 12th edition of the WISE Summit. And while there's been a lot that's been discussed and debated during the past 2 days, being part of the WISE team, it's very ironic that we spend most of our time behind the scene than discussing and debating because we are busy ensuring that the summit is implemented successfully. And so while I don't think, while I think actually there are new topics and many topics that we continue to discuss from different angles to try to find a way to essentially improve education across the world, a lot of the challenges that education is facing today are not new. And this is actually what I would like to focus on for this particular question. My name is Salma Talha Jibril. I am the Director of Research and Policy at WISE. And I would like to thank 100 for hosting us today and Dominic for moderating this panel. So what I would like, my 2 cents contribution to this topic is subject matters that are taught in today's schools. And I think that we need to rethink which subjects are enablers for student flourishing. And I feel that we are in a room here full of innovators. So all of you are actually creating solutions to challenges. But what I often think it's missing in the debate is what are students learning in school? Not how, just what is it that they are learning? And so I think that many of the subjects that are taught today are outdated. And so if I were just to take the example of Fatma from Torba's market earlier, some of the competencies that she is promoting through the juniors market is financial literacy, is entrepreneurial spirit, it's team collaboration. So what are these not core subjects that are being taught in school? What is it, like we are preaching to one another. We have to stop. Maybe this was the universe signed to ponder and reflect on the question of siloed subjects. So yes, that's essentially the idea that I wanted to convey. So we really need to rethink which subject matters are being taught today that are the enablers. And I just would like to highlight a few others. Perseverance and the ability to tolerate and learn from failure, concentration and deep attention in a distracted world, teamwork and cooperation, negotiation and conflict resolution. We don't teach young learners how to deal with conflict, and yet we expect them to manage conflict well. And compassion, empathy, and ethical reasoning, and creativity, curiosity, and imagination. So I really think that these skills and disposition, they will never become obsolete. Whether technology will continue to develop, so we should really rethink what is it that we will continue to need to continue flourishing as young learners and humans.
Just before you pass the mic, what would you cut to make space for all of that? Because one of the biggest challenges is overcrowded curricula for teachers around the world. So all those things, you know, I don't think there's anyone in the room who would disagree with the importance of them, but to make way for them or the subjects, you open by saying
I think that every Ministry of Education in the world should have more innovators. I think we really need to find a way. I don't know how and why and how we would manage to do this, but I truly think that because innovation is out there, look, this room is full of brilliant ideas, and yet we are struggling to connect brilliant ideas to those that essentially are managing the ministries of educations and educators. So I don't have an answer to that, but what I can say is that amongst all of the innovations that is currently being developed and advocated for, I would really love to see more innovation that think about how can we practically make sure that siloed subject, it's something that we tackle so that we can, again, the example of the Torba market, that financial literacy, it's something that is embedded within curriculums. So I think the journey is complex, but I think the innovation exists. We just need to find a better way to advocate for that, I guess. Thank you.
Welcome everyone. Thanks again, Lasse, for having us here. I'm Marco Dondi from the International Baccalaureate. I'm Deputy Director General. Maybe I'll answer the question first before speaking about what the International Baccalaureate does. I think if we want to truly work on education for flourishing, one thing we need to get rid of is the idea that we can standardize it. Flourishing is different depending on the context, depending on the country, depending on the person. And the idea that we can standardize assessment, what a good school looks like, and all of these things, I think is something that we need to work on. At the IB, we're both, to some extent, part of the problem, but also affected by the world around us. For those of you who don't know, the International Baccalaureate is an international education system. We have about 6,000 schools from age 3 to 19 in 160 countries. We do ask our schools to go through a quite rigorous authorization process, although there is space to adapt our programs, which are frameworks, they're not curriculum. There's a wide space actually to the schools and the teachers to come up with their own curriculum, and as well as adapt the requirements that we have, which span from school culture, school governance, school leadership, teacher training. So it's truly a transformation, but there is space for adaptation. And at the end of the journey, at age 18, we have a certificate and a diploma. The certificate is for more those interested in technical education or work, and then diploma is what gives access to university all around the world. And some of the challenges, though, that we do face is, we have limit to the extent to which we can de-standardize our exams or make it less about exam and more about non-exam routes. We have some non-disciplinary subjects. We have 3, and in many countries, the regulators say that's too easy. If you have 3 non-disciplinary subjects, what do people do in those subjects? And so we face our own challenges in innovating and in making our program much more towards flourishing, although I feel we are in a good position, and so there's to that extent, I think we are welcoming all of these innovations. The IB needs to be becoming better, and this is my commitment to you in making sure that our community is exposed to these innovations. And so thanks a lot for always innovating and inspiring us.
So we've had subjects, we've had space for customization and adaptation. Malaz, from your perspective.
Okay, good morning, and thank you all for being here. My name is Malaz Al-Siddiq. and I'm a training specialist at Teach for Qatar. And as someone who started her career as inside the classroom as a teacher, and now I have the privilege to train young teachers at the organization and also in the government schools in Qatar. I believe, like many of you here as well, that we are standing at a powerful moment in the history of education. I also believe that AI is not a threat. I think it's a tool. It's a partner that we should all use. And to think of the changes that need to be done in our education system, first of all, I think we need to shift the focus of just memorizing facts and information, and to learning what makes us really human. And this takes, energy and time and willing to change in our education system. Also, I think that we need to empower our teachers. Teachers need to think of AI as I mentioned earlier, partner, a tool that helps them to really, teach the students new skills other than just, getting scores and memorizing information. I mean, it really saves time and opens new possibilities and gives us new insights of what our students need. At Teach for Qatar, we recruit young professionals and fresh graduates, and then we train them for like 2 months, and they get into schools. They teach our students not only the curriculum and math, science, English, and Arabic. No, they also teach them competencies, leadership skills. They focus on their personalities more than just, getting the scores. So, yeah.
Great, thank you, Malaz. And François.
Thanks for giving me this opportunity, and thanks for this wonderful gathering that the WISE team and the hundreds have helped organized. It's quite inspiring. I'll answer your question about what do we need to do for education for human flourishing, but citing for me the most inspiring speaker of all those WISE events, which was an 11-year-old. We were with her on stage, and we asked her rather similar questions, and Selena answered listening. I think we have to learn to listen. So education for human flourishing has to start by the flourishing of the human. It has to start by asking those young humans what it is that they want for their flourishing. Okay? And so listening to their needs of the youth, for me, is the basis of what we should do. So thanks for enabling Selena to come to this. And for me, co-designing the answer to those most important questions with the next generation is, for me, the basic solution, or at least it's a must. And it's also the UN Pact for the Future started with this. So we all know that we should take decisions that are aligned with next generation best interest, and that starts by listening to the youngest today and trying to co-design with them what it means to learn. We have to acknowledge very humbly that we don't know what's to come. I think Stavros said it beautifully. We are on the verge of something that is unprecedented, and nobody knows what's going to be necessary. Probably not what we've been doing recently. Maybe what we've been doing long ago. Okay, we've heard an amazing speaker also telling us the human journey since the last 300,000 years is all about what some call 21st century skills. Actually, it's human skills. Okay? The ability to cooperate, to be compassionate, to do something together that is meaningful, impactful for us and our communities. That's the basis of human flourishing since humans have existed. How do we re-put these things into the learning spaces? And so one of the way we do these things, for instance, if we invited, somewhat similarly to 100, looking at the best educators, we've asked students from all over the world to tell us what it is that they've learned outside of schools and university that is at least as meaningful, if not more, than what they are learning in schools and universities. And can they learn to share it with others and learn to, create maybe these new learning ecosystems that we need for this human flourishing for tomorrow. So that ability to co-design and to learn from each other and to learn from the youngest ones is for me at the very center. And I think we have to invite them to dream. We have to invite them to dream ethically. And by this, I mean create dreams that are not the nightmare for their little friends or for anyone else in the community or anyone else on the planet, neither today nor tomorrow. And we have to invite them to make their dream come true, even they're ethical, because that will be then the recipe for human flourishing. Because if all of us can learn to make our dreams come true, then we'll have human flourishing. Okay? But we want to make sure we're not creating nightmares for others, including other species. And because, you know, anyway, we're all interdependent on this little planet. So, you know, if you create a nightmare for others, at some point, it's going to backfire. And, you know, we have, and I think the vocabulary of dreams and nightmares is another way of talking about public goods and game theory and win-win versus lose-lose. And, you know, we're in conflict. It's always lose-lose. Any war is lose-lose. So the nightmare of all of us is war. But, you know, so how do we build a peaceful relationship on a planet with limited resource? That's something that we have to learn, and the younger, the better. And, you know, we have to be in this co-designing mood of the future for human flourishing. Thank you.
I think that idea of interspecies empathy is something which is going to grow in importance over the next couple of decades, isn't it? Within.
Yeah, and just to allude to this in some interesting tech-enhanced way, as we speak, some researchers are developing AI to enable not only human language understanding by the machine, but animal language. Okay? So imagine you have a conference on the future of oceans, as we have on a regular basis, where whales and dolphins are invited, I would have said at the table, but, you know, in the conversation. So, you know, how do we do this? Okay, and, you know, we are getting close to these sorts of things. Okay, so we'll have to learn to coexist and co-dream with other forms of intelligence. Some of them aliens, as Stavros was putting. Some of them, you know, we've been cohabiting with for long on this planet. But we have to learn to make those ethical dream weaving at the planetary scale with all forms of intelligence that are present on this little planet, and maybe a few that are present on other planets if we ever come to have a conversation with them.
So for the next question, particularly for Malaz and Marco, to come back to the human capabilities, and, you know, something you referenced, Malaz, in your answer to the first question is, you know, what uniquely human capacities do you think schools need to focus on in a time when AI can perform so many cognitive tasks and the value of knowledge is perhaps changing and how students access knowledge? So how would you focus on or what would you focus on that is still uniquely human?
So we have started an exploration first with the OECD in partnership with the high performance system, so Singapore, British Columbia. So with a few of these systems, we've started to talk about what would be the competencies that matters if the purpose of education is human flourishing. And then we have done our own journey at the IB. And so maybe I'll mention the very first step of this journey, and it's a journey that even defining what these skills are, actually I don't like to use the word defining, but because again, they are not defined in a standard way. But this is a journey we'll take with our community and with many organizations. But there are 5 that we are starting to think about. The first one is the concept of continuous self-development, the ability to continue develop, not just learning, but also develop. Because again, when it's about you developing as a human, it goes beyond, I think, what at least most people have in mind when it's about learning. And it's also important because we know that people out of formal education will still need to learn and develop a lot. Life will throw at them challenges. The job market will force them to change. So this ability to continue self-develop is one. The second we have started to think about is more connected to AI and the fact that AI risks taking away the cognitive effort that it takes to get to an answer. And so it's this ability to be capable of remaining in control, being wise when taking decision, being wise on when to use some tools and how. And so this idea of wisdom in decision making is the second one. The third is around system change, being agent of system change, because if we think more of where we are as a global society, we have a lot of systems that are complex. These systems are connected to each other, kind of bringing the complexity to an exponential, and we get stuck. And so there's a lot of a systemic change, and how to lead system change is another one that we are focusing on. Then there's one which I guess is core to the IB, but core to humanity, which is around being able to care for others, empathize with others, appreciate others in their own diversity. And the last one is around, I always forget one. That's when 5 is...
Such a bold start to start with a list of 6 without any notes.
No, there are 5. The other one is, of course, maintaining the capability to maintain well-being and finding meaning, which, if you think about it, is at the core of everything. Like, how do we get students? And so there's an element of resilience and being capable of coping, but there's also an element that goes beyond the well-being and really finding meaning. And so the broader definition of well-being. So those are the 5 that we have started to explore, and we'll explore more, and then think of how do we adapt our education if these 5 are the core or purpose of education.
And the OECD report about that work has just come out, hasn't it? Was it?
Yes, that's correct. So it came up a couple of weeks ago, I think.
Great, thank you. Malaz, for you.
So my answer is also similar. I think that many of us think that maybe AI or robots are going to replace us, but we need to understand, especially teachers, that AI is not going to replace them. It's going to upgrade them. So teachers need to, if they were supported, if they got the perfect support and trust, they will guide our students not only to help them not only on how to use AI, but in using AI in a wise way, ethically, and also with a purpose. Yes, AI is able to do many cognitive tasks faster than us, and therefore schools need to shift from, just, as I said earlier, giving us just, cognitive or thinking questions and tasks and facts. And we need to focus on building leadership skills and competencies, empathy, commitment, collaboration, conflict management, resilience, developing others. I think in that way, we're not going to, lose the human factor.
Yeah, of course.
On the question of uniqueness, let us remind one another that AI has no heritage and no culture, right? So what that means is there is a fundamental reminder that schools should nurture the sense of belonging, right? And so AI will do great things, but AI will never have a heritage and it will never have a culture. And so when you live in societies where people are grounded in their heritage, they're grounded in their identity, that is a foundation that is unshakable, no matter what the human being is introduced to. And I think sometimes, I know this sounds a bit cheesy, but I think we really need to, the cement, what is it that you need to do to ensure that the foundation is there? And that's a sense, nurturing sense of belonging, a sense of identity, and build on that. But once the foundation is strong, anything that comes after cannot destroy the foundation. So I think we should really think about AI from that perspective as well.
Matthew Lee at Harvard's Human Flourishing Project has done some great work on the relationship between identity and human flourishing and the role of school in identity construction as well. Did you want to come in, Francois?
Yeah, talking about things AI don't have. They don't have emotions. They don't have vulnerability. They don't know what it is to be born as fragile as we are. They don't know that the humans are actually the species that is born the most frail, the most vulnerable, and that we remain so throughout our lives in different ways. And I think, learning to be a human, if that's the purpose of education in the age of AI, is not that easy. Because, listen to yourself, to others, to your inner child, you know, to all those dimensions that help us to understand that, yes, we're born vulnerable. Yes, we need to care, without care, we would not have survived. And that therefore, we need to learn to care for each other, we learn to care for ourselves, and we have to learn to care for the planet and for the future. I think, you know, that's, you know, at the heart of being a human that makes us distinct from animals and from machines, to be born that vulnerable. And to understand that that identity started as, you know, little ones that are so vulnerable and so eager to learn. And so learning about the joy of learning and making sure education doesn't take it away, because this is, as we know, happening much too often. And so remembering this, and then, you know, AI is just a tool that should serve, you know, or the birthing of the best versions of ourselves. So instead of having school that aim to rank students, and, you know, one of them is the best in class, and one of them is the best in school, and one of them best in country, best in the world, you know, let's aim for best for the world, because each of us can be the best version of ourselves, for our community, and for the planet. So that would be education for human flourishing.
Do you see good work already happening in that direction, Francois, with, you know, either with the work with the Youth Design Challenge or any of the other research or projects that Learning Planet is involved in? If you had to highlight a couple of examples of really great practice that is already moving in that direction.
So to give one or two examples, Ikigai is the search for purpose, Japanese way. There is some Western versions of it, and we have had conversations about this, where you find the intersection between what you love, what the world needs, what you know how to do, or what you can learn how to do, and what are the resources you can find. And so how do you match your personal resource, the resource and needs of your community, the resource and needs of the planet and the future generations? Can we learn to have a conversation about this? So, you know, Ikigai is one of the framework for it. I'm sure there is others, and, you know, we are willing to scale them. So what we did in Learning Planet, we prototyped this face-to-face, and at some point, we started to use AI, not as a way to answer those existential questions, like who am I here for, but to help us question ourselves and dig deeper, ever deeper, in that meaningful quest. And so, you know, having tools to birth the best versions of ourselves for tomorrow, that's, I think, one of the ways to address this. And clearly there is different traditions, and, you know, Socrates' mother was a midwife. So meiotics, birthing of ideas or of babies, is the same word in French and in Latin languages. And this ability to give birth to the future is, I think, some of what we should do. Inviting kids to tell the story of themselves and of their community and of this planet, futures, so learning to be storytellers. Okay, that's one of the things our ancestors have learned around the fire. Okay, so how do we learn about this, and how do we learn to tell stories that are inspiring? There is so many stories that are gloomy these days. Just, you know, open the news, and you'll feel anxiety. You know, what about, you know, learning that shit happens, but that if you turn it into fertilizer, then they can be flourishing. Okay, and, you know, that's the sort of things that we have to learn, because we have to learn about resilience. We have to learn that, of course, there is trauma. You know, birth is one of the worst trauma we all went through. Okay, not that easy to go from inside to outside and discover this outer world. Okay, and there is many others that. So how do we learn? You know, learning to walk is thousands of falls, but let's try one more time until we manage to do it. We've all learned this as babies. That's the way we've learned to talk. So, you know, we have this inner resilience. What about cultivating it for individuals and for collective? And, you know, what about creating a sort of a planetary academy where we learn for the planet, knowing its resource limitations, knowing the diversity of life, knowing the diversity of human beings, learning to, you know, together. Because, I mean, our national education systems have evolved under, you know, national boundaries and constraints and political that I won't go into. But what about learning for the planet and learning for us? You know, human, what's the etymology? Is the same as humor, interestingly, as humus and as humility. Okay, we'll all go back to some humus at some point. Okay, so let's be humble about our journey and let's learn that, you know, we have the chance of being here, we have the joy of being here today, and we have some sort of a duty to cultivate that joy and make sure that life can continue. You know, last summer I was in Hiroshima and Nagasaki for the 80th birthday. 80th anniversary, sorry. We are the species that self-proclaim to be Homo sapiens sapiens. Anyone claiming to be wise is not very wise. Someone that has to repeat it twice must have a real problem. So we have to learn that humility and rediscover, you know, our roots, know where we come from, know where we are, so that we can dream of where we go together.
So we've got about 5 minutes left, so we're going to move to the final question. And for the final question, I put the prompt, I put all 4 of your bios into ChatGPT, because it seemed apposite to have an AI-generated question, and gave it the prompt, what would be the most challenging question to ask these 4 panelists about human flourishing? And the question that it's come up with for you all is, if we truly placed human flourishing, not academic performance, not economic competitiveness, not technological adoption, at the center of education in an AI-transformed world, what is the single most radical change each of your institutions would need to make, and what prevents you from making it today? And we've got about 1.5 minutes each, so Malaz, you're going to kick off. Thank you for diving in first.
Yes. Okay. At Teach for Qatar, we recruit, as I said earlier, young professionals, fresh graduates. We train them to become amazing teachers, and then we send them to governmental schools to teach for 2 years or more. And we are trying to make, you know, small changes in each school. Each teacher with like around 30 to 90 students. Maybe the change that need to be done is to work on a bigger scale. We train individual excellent teachers. Maybe we need to work with a whole ecosystem, like the whole school culture, not only just, you know, having our impact on the teachers themselves, but on in the school. We need, you know, to work with the administrators, the parents, everyone who works inside the school, in order to support our kids and students. Yes, bigger scale.
Okay, that's a tough question, but let me try to tackle it from 2 angles. I think we should, as WISE and Qatar Foundation and any other institution, we should really think and reflect on what is the purpose of education. Actually, if you ask yourself this question, you're probably gonna struggle a bit before having an answer. But I often ask myself that question, because in approaching any research endeavor or any new project or any new collaboration, essentially, what is it that we are aiming to achieve? And if the purpose of education is, in my humble opinion, to equip individuals with life skills so that they can navigate life, then what is it that we need to teach for a human to navigate life, right? And then the other question is really to just, I don't know, you know, there is a word, the Quran starts with a word, iqra, which means read. I think reading is fundamental. And maybe this is something where we have been failing for quite some time. Where we know studies and all of that. I don't want to put my research hat on today. I really wanted to put existential, philosophical hat. Kids are not reading at the grade level, right? So what is it that we have done wrong that we are not able to read? And actually, that was the first word on a holy book. So maybe there is wisdom in that.
I guess I'll have to be honest on the answer. I think it would be getting rid of exams. That would be the real answer. What prevents us to do so? So at primary year we don't have exams. At secondary we have an assessment which isn't an exam. The one that gives you access to university, there are 6 subjects which are examined and 3 that are assessed. we are working to gradually move more things from the exams to the assessment. The challenge is that universities and employers need and want something to select. And so we need to find a way to give them something that focuses on matching the person to the path or the job, which moves away from ranking, because ranking you need to have a standard, while matching is something that you can do in a different way. We are working on it, on innovating in that direction, but I do believe it will take time.
So I think I'll go back to listening. How do we listen to the voice of those we serve, but also to the voice of the underserved that are not in our institutions, not in our room? And so how do we listen to the voice of those that are not in this room or not in any of our institutions' rooms? Okay? And what's preventing us, it's hard. How do you talk to everyone out there? How do you hear the Afghan girl needs? How do you hear, the refugees' needs, all those underserved communities? I think there is an emerging concept which is worth sharing with this crowd called broad listening. Broadcasting, we all know. One person talks, everyone listens. Broad listening is, imagine every one of you could be heard simultaneously. Everyone on this planet could be heard simultaneously before we take a decision that's going to have an impact on their life, on their learning, on their futures. Okay? If we could do this, it would be great. And interestingly, that's where AI can have a conversation with every one of us and can also do synthesis of all those conversations and help us know what everyone needs and can help us maybe find a way to maximize the synergies between these needs and all resources that are limited on this planet and create this sort of dream weaving abilities so that we don't create nightmares, because schools can be a nightmare, let's be honest about it. Exams can be a nightmare. Okay, so if we could get rid of those and instead look for how do we make something meaningful for ourselves and our community. If we were assessed on this, on being best for the world rather than being best in class, best in exams, I think that will be a real change. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you all very much. Please join me in thanking the panel.
Thank you, Francois. Thank you, Malas. Thank you, Marco. Thank you, Selma. Thank you, Dominic, for sharing these insights and also serving us as a little kickoff for the last section of today. As we have been now looking at education for the era of the human flourishing and AI from different perspectives, we are starting to move forward in our program. But before we are starting the workshops, there is something that I want to announce. The next education house is going to continue. It's going to continue the way how we want to address the wider network of organizations, partners, communities around the world to see the importance of education and how it can impact the future generations and the prosperity of this world. Therefore, we've decided that we want to go where the elite, where all the leading economic power of this world is gathering, that being Davos at the World Economic Forum in January 2026. So this will be the next education house. If you are willing to join us, please let us know, and let's discuss how we can make that possible. At this point, I also want to thank you all who have been watching the live stream. And as we are moving forward in the program, it's time to start the workshops. So we know that all of you are having a lot of insights that can build the future of education. And we have a fantastic organization, Brookings, which is very dear for us at 100, to facilitate these workshops together with you. Brookings was one of the first organizations ever to identify the work 100 has been doing in the area of innovation identification back in 2016. 2017. And next, from the Brookings, I would like to introduce you Rachel and Omar, who will share what will happen next. And not to worry, there is a prize in the end. There are actually two prizes in the end. One is that you will be fed. So we are all going to work for food. When the workshops are ending, there are lunch boxes available on the second floor. Then the second thing is that there is going to be an article, report, a paper, a policy brief available based on the insights that you are sharing. But the stage is yours. Here is the clicker. And if you click the next one, here you go.
Assalamu alaikum. Good afternoon by now. I think we're at 12 o'clock. So this has been a very inspiring 3 days. The WISE Summit was incredibly, there was a lot of discussions, a lot of things that we talked about as far as how the world is changing and how we need to change. And the discussions today have continued those questions. My